Good morning, everyone. Hopefully, you guys all had a great weekend. Back at it on Monday, I uploaded some new stuff today, which included a daily math, I believe number 56. There was a constructing circles textbook set of questions. Please ignore questions 4 and 9. There was a heritage minute for Sam Steele. There was a science assignment on types of volcanoes. There will be a video for that coming up in the next few minutes. And there was an independent novel study. So that's what I have here in front of me, and I'm going to be going through this with you today. So if you want some more info, please follow through. We did discuss the independent novel study prior to the break, but of course, with everything that was happening, it just sort of cut into our time. So the first thing you needed to have done, and I did discuss this with everyone here, was to choose a novel. Now, because things are closed now, this is going to be trickier to do. I am at the school here. If you do want me to send you a picture or videos of some novels here, I can do that and then leave it here for you to pick up. You could also pick a book you have from home. You could, I'm not sure if you can order them right now. It would be tough. But if there is a particular book you're looking for, please let me know. I'll do my best to try to find it for you. About half the kids, especially the kids who came here last week, they all have them now. So the rest of you are sort of going to have to find them on your own. But again, I will help if you need. The novel has to be about 100 pages. It's got to be more than 100, but it can be slightly more. And age appropriate. So we're talking about no Dogmen, no Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, and no graphic novels. I'd like to know which book you're doing, but because of the whole situation where you're not here, as long as it fits the criteria of being over 100 pages and age appropriate, I'm okay with you just going ahead and starting to read. Don't pick a book that we've done already or a book you've done in previous classes. It needs to be something new to you. It could be a book you had at home that maybe you started reading and didn't finish. That's okay, but not something you've already read. The due date, I did not change it on the outline, so obviously it's not due 9 years ago, so please ignore that there. Now, the criteria, once you're done reading the book, and I did put in the schedule that you should be looking to read about 20 to 30 minutes a day. At that rate, you could easily get through a 100-page book in a couple weeks, a very short amount of time. Now, once the book is done, you need to write up a report. Now, this can be done on Google Docs, which would be your best way to do it, or you could do it on Microsoft Word, but I would suggest Google Docs. They're essentially the same. Your report has to be at least, the bare minimum, a page and a half long. Don't go over 3 pages, though. I don't want this thing to become a massive write-up. It has to be typed using 12-point font, double-spaced, and Times New Roman Arial or Calibri fonts. Your report must include an introduction, your body, which has 4 paragraphs, and a conclusion. And the outline below will tell you exactly what to have. So if you follow this outline, you should have no problems writing your report. So the first paragraph is just an introductory paragraph. So you have to have the following information: the title and author of your novel, why you chose the novel, which genre is the novel. So is this a horror novel? Is it a adventure novel? Is it yeah, and again, I hopefully I mentioned this, I'm sure I did. This is a fiction novel study. No biographies, no like how-to books. It has to be a fiction novel. And also putting in here the topics you plan on covering. The introduction is relatively short. I would expect it to be no more than about 4 sentences. Now, when we get to the next page, the next part of your novel study, your first paragraph after the introduction is going to discuss the characters. While you're reading the book, it wouldn't hurt to make some notes. I like sticky notes. If you have some at home, put some sticky notes on the pages that best give you the information. That way you don't have to worry about fiddling your way back through the book at the end of it. You could also do this on loose leaf paper, but again, it is generally easier just to go ahead and to do it on with sticky notes or putting little pieces of paper inside. Now, here's what you need to find about your characters. So who are the protagonists and antagonists? Now, unfortunately, we haven't had a chance to discuss this. Protagonists are your good characters. These are the characters who you're supposed to have a connection with. They're the characters who are they're right through the book, probably from the beginning to the end. They try to help the main character, or they are the ones you're trying to root for. So I don't like to say think of them as good guys, because they're not always good guys, but the vast majority of the time they are. Now, the antagonists are the ones who are causing problems for the protagonists. Now, you may have a book that doesn't have a clear antagonist. If you're dealing with a book, for example, that somebody's dealing with a disease or they're dealing with war, it's very possible that there may not be a main antagonist. That could be that, the disease itself is the antagonist. But in most books, there is a negative character, a character who, I don't want to use the word bad guy, but often they are. And sometimes all the time, they cause some type of problem for the protagonist. So who are they? Pick one of each, because you often get more than one. Describe them. What's their description? What are their interests? What are their faults or things that are negative against them? And give me a biography about them. What's some information that the book tells you? So when you get this information as you're reading, put a little sticky note there, put a piece of paper in the page number. That way you can go back and find it. And finally, explain why you think each character is a protagonist. So you might say that John is a protagonist because, he's trying to complete the task. He is, he has positive characteristics. He helps other people. And you might say that Chris is the antagonist because he continually bugs John. He continually causes problems for him. So again, that's the paragraph on characters. The second paragraph should be your setting. So you want to include the following information. Where does the novel take place? Don't think about just where, but when. Is there a timeline here? Is this in the future, the present, the past? How would you know that? Are there computers? Is there technology? Describe that. Talk about a few of the main scenes. So for example, does it take place at a school, at someone's house, at a park? Where do some of the main scenes? So obviously, most novels have many, but describe some of the main ones that come up. What do they look like? What do they, how do the characters feel about them? And lastly, how do these scenes influence the theme of the novel? So if your novel is a horror novel, how does the spooky house influence the novel? Or if yours is a school, how does the school influence the theme of which, could be drama? The third paragraph is what I like to often call the meat and bones. This is the plot of it, okay? This is where you're going to talk about what happens in the beginning, the middle, and the end. I do not need a detailed chapter summary. We've done those for both The Hobbit, for chapters 1 to 6, and with Coraline for chapters 3 to 12. What I need here is a summary of the book. So give me a little bit about the beginning, a little bit about the end, and about the middle as well. What parts did you find most interesting or engaging, and which themes appear through the novel most? The fourth paragraph is the problems, the conflicts, and the climax. So we didn't get to discuss these in great detail, but we'll go through them quickly here. So the first one you want to look at is the problems. Now, what are problems? Problems are, what is the challenge that the character is facing? What is the big problem of the book? Sometimes there's more than one, but there usually is a main problem that starts early in the novel, and the character needs to resolve this problem as the novel goes on. The smaller conflicts are things that come up in between. So, for example, if we're dealing with The Hobbit, the problem would be they have to get the dragon's gold back. Now, a conflict could be they got caught by the trolls, or they got captured by the goblins. Those are smaller conflicts. And lastly, is there a climax or anticlimax? Now, the climax is going to be the most exciting part of the book. It's the build up to where the problem is solved. So if you want to think about Coraline, the climax would be the part where she's setting up the trap for the other mother's hand at the end of the story. And the anticlimax is there any unanswered questions? Are there things that we don't know about at the end? And if your book is part of a series, it probably is. Lastly, the conclusion. Very short part, 3 sentences. Did you enjoy the novel? Would you recommend it to a friend? And finally, any closing comments you want to add. Please go back to your storyboards as a guideline. You're obviously not going to be here, so that's going to be difficult. But again, you could ask me or message me anytime for questions. You may also refer back to your class notes or ask me for any assistance. Now, the marking. I do have a rubric for how this is going to be marked. I'm going to pull it up for you quickly here so you can see it. There it is. So for the... It's going to make it bigger so you guys can see it a bit better at home. I'm still doing these sort of amateur videos here, so bear with me as we go. Let's, I don't know, let's go to 200. All right, that's good. So you're going to get 2 marks for the introduction. So again, relatively short. 6 marks for the characters. So you definitely want to have a lot more said about the characters. This is a little out of date here. I got to change this. My apologies. The characters for 6 marks. So again, a relatively detailed section. The setting, you want to have at least 5 points about the setting, and the plot is 15. That is actually the biggest part there. The problems, conflicts, and climax section is 5 marks, and then of course 2 marks for a good conclusion. And of course, spelling and grammar is very important. Please proofread this over. If you want to send me a rough copy for me to proofread, if there's time, I will do it. Length, make sure that it's at least 1.5 pages. Knowledge of the book, that actually should be a lot higher. And that's going to be just, little extra things about it. Did you really read the book detailed? Did you just kind of skim through it? And lastly, on time, whether the assignment is handed in on time. So again, follow this kind of rubric as you go through. Clearly, the plot section should be your longest section. The other ones can be a bit shorter. So we got 8, 13, 28, 32, 34, 7, 39. So out of 45 total marks is what we got here. And again, do this slowly. Read kind of a few, read 5 or 6 pages, maybe 10 pages. Make a goal for yourself that's realistic, and start writing the report. If you find information as you read, you'll make your report so much easier. Or start writing your report as you're still reading the book. You may not be able to finish sections like problem or conflict, plot, but you can definitely write about the setting and characters pretty early into the book. Otherwise, guys, that's kind of it for this. If you have specific questions about the novel study, feel free to message me at any time. And hopefully everything goes smoothly here, and we'll talk to you guys later. See you later.